If you're in a position where mindfulness, leaving thoughts are there, is still leaving you chronically anxious and chronically guilty, you obviously need to do more if that's been persisting for months and months and months, years and years and years, which is a position I have been in myself, and the thousands of people who've come into us over the years are in themselves. It's not rocket science. It's not a secret method. It's a case of looking at life as it is, rationally, realistically, and breaking down why the thing you're scared of isn't as scary as you think, as well as changing your relationship with fear and anxiety. And that is going to take shifts in your life philosophy, life perspectives, as well as which you come at through breaking down your irrational beliefs gradually and changing your perspective of anxiety, physical symptoms, anxiety sensations, and the general whole experience of having OCD. So in these videos, I like to cover that sort of in detail to show that journey, because otherwise people feel hopeless. They think, oh my God, I've been to 10 different people. I'm still not better. Nobody understands it, or I'm treatment resistant because nothing else works. That's how people think. That's how they get in their head. And then that's compounded by people who don't understand OCD, constantly saying the same narrative of thoughts are thoughts, leave thoughts there. Oh, you're obviously reacting too much. Try and do a bit more meditation. That don't work, because people come in that have been on meditation retreats for months and months and months and months and months and are feeling worse than ever, often because they've gone more internal. Now, that's not to say that meditation is very helpful, but it can often be counterproductive where the person's getting too internalized, say, for example, with sensory motor OCD. So if they've been doing something for a long period of time and it hasn't been working, they need to adjust what they're doing. And that's absolutely vital when it comes to OCD, because otherwise what we do is, let me give an example. When I was stuck, I went to yoga, meditation, massage constantly every week, centers all over the world, all of that stuff, because I was feeling chronic guilt and chronic anxiety 24/7. Okay, all right, waxed and waned the roller coaster, but most of the time that guilt was locked hard on all the time. So it wasn't like I didn't try everything. And it wasn't like I was trying to fight it all the time. I was leaving it there. But chronic guilt relating to real event and harm OCD just cut through that peaceful state like a hot knife through butter. So you're going to feel like that, like a lot of the quotes that we put up by Albert Ellis talks about how if you're super scared of something, you've got this irrational belief, like it's going to fire up your nervous system until you change your perspective on something. Often, that's the Korzybski quote about God may forgive your sins, but your nervous system won't. And that specifically relates to not from a religious context, but it's because it's an old quote. But I'm saying it specifically relates to that locked-in-like sensation, that locked-on-like sensation that we're experiencing with chronic guilt and chronic harm-related OCD, because we tend to all have conditional acceptance. So OCD heads like a homing missile for that condition, and then it latches all around that, and that creates that chronic guilt and chronic anxiety-like state, which I've been talking about for OCD and raising awareness of for the last decade. And put it this way, I'm sitting here now, no chronic anxiety, no chronic guilt. I don't have any setbacks. There's no thoughts that can come up or false memories, because whatever it latches to or tries to latch to, it knows that there's no fear there. I can see it rationally. There's nothing can. And I embody that unconditional self-acceptance. I can see that. I can understand that. It makes rational sense. So it doesn't provide a framework for OCD. But in the past, I would be tense, neck tensed, arms tensed, everything tense, because it was engaged. It was locked on. I didn't believe that. I believed if I had done ... I should be written off forever. If I'd done ... I should feel chronic guilt forever. Every second of my life, I should be tortured internally. So I understand that experience, when you can feel it and you can experience it, it's the absence of suffering. There is no, OCD flares up and gets triggered again and suddenly, it doesn't happen, because that's what robust recovery is. There's nothing there that it can fire up and lock on. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't ever get triggered. If I was going into battle today, I'm sure I would be anxious, but there's no chronic latched on, locked on chronic guilt and chronic anxiety relating to OCD-like fears that it can lock onto. We know what that locked on state's like, where it's sort of scouring for new things to latch to and morph to, and then being sort of latched in that position for a very long time, as in my own case, sort of like a more or less 24/7 for years, sort of waxing and waning like state. So we know that. So it's very, very key to look at how you're operating with OCD, because a lot of mine was fear of fear. It wasn't just this disputing of irrational beliefs. And we're not disputing thoughts. That's another misconception. We're breaking down those core beliefs that are firing up the anxious cycle, as well as, which was a huge part, changing my relationship with the anxiety, chronic guilt, and learning to live with that and not be so scared if that persisted so-called forever, for the rest of our life, right? And all of that combination, that then picks away all that internal framework that the OCD is operating on and functioning on